going on. So I've been talking basketball, and I had some interesting debates, and I was talking about Tim Duncan. And I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. I ain't even no puzzles about it. I have much love and respect for Kobe Bryant, and what have you. But I thought Tim Duncan was a better player than him. I thought that Tim Duncan, for me, was only second to Shaquille O'Neal in the early 00s. Um, Tim Duncan was beast, man. I mean, he played all 21 years in San Antonio, 5-1 in the finals, three finals MVPs, two league MVPs. He did it all. I mean, he was a consummated pro and leader, and he was clutch. I mean, he was. Shaq called him the big fundamentals. I mean, when another great player can give you a nickname which applies, I mean, come on now. Duncan was a beast, man. The guy could do it, roll off of screens. That touch off the window was sweet. I mean, you got to go back to Sam Jones with the old Boston Celtics to see another big who could shoot that glass like Duncan. Duncan's glass was sick, you know. Um, the thing about Tim Duncan, I'll say this. You think about some people want to compare him like to Bill Russell, and you can make that. You could, the way his structures defense, but you could also say like Kareem. You can see some Kareem in Duncan because he was an incredible weapon with the touch, and he never had. Tony Parker was good, and he became Hall of Fame worthy. But imagine Jason Kidd if that trade goes down and he plays with him. That would have been something, you know. Imagine that. The what if situation. Like how now you can play musical chairs with your NBA career. Of course, if Duncan had gone with Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady in Orlando, and Tracy McGrady recently was shaking his head like, Doc Rivers, couldn't you just let his family come on, please? Because you know how great Tim Duncan was. And I know it might be controversial to say, look, got much love for Kobe and all that, but they're going into this Hall of Fame class. Well, Duncan, to me, Kevin Garnett and him, it was kind of like almost like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, regular season. Like Garnett in the regular season was beasting. But when you put it all together, you saw what Tom Brady did. Well, that's kind of like Tim Duncan. And that kind of offset that. Kevin Garnett was a great player, but Duncan was on another level. And if you're called the best ever at your position, you deserve to get higher respect and ranking, especially in a position that was a tweener because he could go big and he was versatile. And the only reason why it was Shaq, because Shaq was so dominant and changed the course of the game that they had to allow the hack of Shaq, they had to allow the flopping and the acting. They had no way to stop him. So that's the one reason why Shaq ranks ahead. Was my number one player of the early. If you're going by the early OOs for that particular window, for me. But then Tim Duncan is number two. Then I can go with Kobe, and you can debate AI and so on and so forth. And Kevin Garnett's in that argument too. But um, for me, Duncan was beasting. Because he set a course in San Antonio. I know the reason why he don't get his props. He didn't sell no jerseys, and he played for Old Country San Antonio. I already know. Let's keep it real and 100. He played for a bigger franchise that had the sexy pick and the teams and the vibe. There's no way in the world you win five and go six finals and you don't. And the San Antonio Spurs gear, you saw like two or three people. You knew they were diehard. Let's be real. That's like somebody rocking Detroit Pistons gear out of the state. It ain't the norm. Same thing with the Spurs. It ain't the norm. But he was bad. There's no denying it. And that guy should be more applauded than he is. He's one of the most underrated, greatest players I've ever seen. And he belongs on that great argument with anybody that especially I've seen in the last 30, 40 years. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Tim Duncan belonged on there. He was a bad man. Bad. You know. And he left without fanfare. That's the thing I like about him. It wasn't no fanfare, all this. He was always like how he was. He did his work, he came, he went, he left. I bet the Spurs miss him now because the ball starts back. But Marcus Aldridge, I mean, you ain't Tim Duncan. There's some big shoes to fill, but come on now. Duncan was something else. But anyway, that's my thoughts and takes about Tim Duncan. A few reasons why he never gets the love and respect he does, and it's not all about basketball. It's got to do with the politics and stuff. But that was a bad man. Not only the greatest power forward ever, but one of the greatest to ever play the game. And I'm talking about an all-time great. I really am. because I think a lot of his game, he was something else. Anyway, give me your thoughts and takes about Tim Duncan. Is he is he underrated, rated right, overrated to you? Where you come down on Tim Duncan? Because I don't think he gets near enough to do he should for how great he was and what he accomplished with the Spurs. But let's hear from it. Hit the like and subscribe, and the bell rings a new video. Wash your hands, keep your mind clear. Watch out for one another. And appreciate greatness, because it doesn't have to be all showy. It doesn't have to be all in your face. Subtlety is a lost art. Good night.